Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to show you how to install qvm, qemu, and Virt-Manager. My name is Yevgen, and this channel is all about showing you how to become a highly paid IT professional, and fast. If you ever wondered how to install qvm, qemu, and Virt-Manager, and then run a virtual machine with Ubuntu, then you want to watch this video. Let's look at what we are working with. First thing first is what is qemu and what is qvm. Qemu is a quick emulator. So when we run a virtual machine by just using qemu, it will be not using directly the processor, it will be emulating the processor. So it will be adding another layer to the processing of something. So that's why the qemu normally has a slow pace of working with things. That's why qvm was introduced. qvm is kernel-based virtual machine. It allows you to use directly the resources from your actual machine, and if the processor permits, using the hardware virtualization. This way, it's much faster to use qvm than qemu, but there are some tools for qvm that require qemu. That's why we'll be installing both of them. Another thing to note is the difference between host and guest. The host operating system is the one that will be running the VMs. So this will be the machine where we'll be connecting to, and then where we'll be installing all the tools required. And the guest operating system is the one that will be running as the virtual machine. So in this case, both of them are Ubuntu. Okay, let's look at the process itself. So first thing first, we will need to download a few tools for our Windows machine, the machine that we will be working from. Then we update our server on Ubuntu host and check if we can run qvm. Then we install qvm, Virt-Manager, and the dependencies. After that, we grant user the usage of qvm. Then we install Ubuntu as the guest OS, and after that we test everything if it's working correctly. So let's start. First thing we do is download PuTTY. PuTTY is an SSH client. This application will allow us to run the SSH command so we can access our server. We have two options here. We can use the installer or we can use the portable version. I prefer the portable version, so I'm just downloading it and keeping it. Next thing, I'm downloading xming. Xming, on the other hand, is something that allows you to use X11 forwarding. That is, X11 is also known as shorg. That's something that allows you to draw the actual content of the application itself. So for example, if you have graphical user interface and you are just using PuTTY, then you will not be able to see the graphical user interface. You will need to use xming for that. Linux operating systems already have this in them, so you don't normally need the application. So this time we just download it, and this time it's an installer. So waiting for a few seconds and confirm that we want it. Okay. Now, as we have all the tools that we need on our Windows system, we just install them. Xming requires to be installed, so let's start with that. The process is very simple. First, it requires us the admin level access to the machine, and then we can just press next. Here we choose the space, the location that we want to install is tool 2, and we press next. It's asking if we want to replace the content of that folder. Yeah, sure. We can leave the default settings here. It doesn't matter actually for us. Then if you want to run and add a start menu folder, once again, okay, the default part. Next, here it asks us if we want a few icons and where we can click them directly and start the tool, but we don't need it. So we just skip this and press next. After we press install, it will install the application itself. So as the application is very small, it's pretty fast to install. Here, when we press finish, we will have this application started in the taskbar. Okay, so it's running. Next thing we want to do is open putty. And here we will need to provide our IP address to the server and port 22. In this case, port 22 is used for SSH. And SSH is a secure way to get access to your server on Linux. One thing to be added here is the actual SSH X11 forwarding. So what we do here is in connection part, we go to SSH and then we choose X11. Here we press enable X11 forwarding and we press 2.0. So this way, when we have a graphical user interface trying to be drawn over our SSH connection, it will actually draw us the interface on our Windows machine. So we open the connection and we log in as John. Okay, let's just change a small thing here. I want to change the font so it will be better seen by you guys. Okay, I right-clicked here on the bar and I choose change settings. And here I have the appearance part, so window appearance, and let's change it to be a bit bigger. Okay, we apply this and it's much bigger. Okay, so first things first, we need to check to see if kvm can be run here, and we need to have the machine updated. For that, we are going to go to our super user account, so root, and let's update all the packages. The command to check for updates, if they exist, is apt-get update. So what this does is actually not updating the packages itself, but it's updating the latest version, the information about what version is out there that can be installed. So most of the Linux operating systems have package managers. Package managers are great because they allow you to install applications with just a few button presses. So here you can install anything. So let's do this. As you can see, the process is really fast and it's just downloading the latest version information from the servers. After it's done, we can proceed. The second command we'll be using is apt-get upgrade. Upgrade itself is looking at the current operating system packages and looking if on the server we're using for the packages, the version is the same or if the server has newer version of the applications. It will run upgrade for all the applications on our system that can be upgraded. We run this, but there is nothing that needs to be upgraded. So we don't need to upgrade anything. Okay. Second part is to check if we can run kvm on this specific machine. To do this, we do the following command. What this does is gets the information from proc cpuinfo. This file has a description of all the flags, of all the things that a processor can run. So let's show it to you. So it has the number of processors. In this case, it has 8 processors. It starts from 0. That's why the last one is 7. And it has all the flags present by the processor. So the thing that processors support. In this case, we are looking for the actual information to see if we have 2 flags here. So it's VMX and SVM. These flags show you that you can run hardware emulation, hardware virtualization. This way you can install kvm. The output of this is 8. That's because we have 8 processors that support the actual command, so that have this flag ready. If we would have an answer with 0, then we wouldn't be able to run kvm. Okay, so we have this also done, let's proceed. We want to install kvm, Virt-Manager, and all the dependencies. For that, we just run the following command. Here, we are going to use apt-get, once again, our package manager solution, and command install. We are installing qemu-kvm, we're installing some daemon parts of the libvirt. So libvirt is a library that allows us to work with virtual machines. We're also installing the client information, and we're installing bridge-utils. Bridge-utils allow you to create bridged connection network. So this way you will be able to use your home, for example, router, to get an IP address and access it from there. Then we have Virt-Manager. Virt-Manager is the actual graphical user interface client. Xauth is used to create authorization for us to connect to the server by using X11. So xming needs this application to run on our machine. So just press enter, and we are asked if we want to install the following tools. We choose yes and press enter. Some of the packages are already installed, so the process will be really fast. It might take around 5 to 10 minutes depending on the processor you're using. So the thing we had with bridge-utils was the following. Imagine you have a router connected to your host PC, and router, for example, has the IP address of 192.168.1.1 and host PC has 192.168.1.2. So if you create a virtual machine and you want to have your IP address in this network, so for example 1.3, then you need bridged networking. This way you will use your router and will get an IP address from your router. Another way is using host-based networking. So for example, if you want to just have host PC connect to your virtual machine, you can have host-based networking. So this way, virtual machine will not be able to access the internet. That might be the case for some users, but in our case we would like to have internet. But we don't like to have bridged networking, because for example, in this case I'd like to have a virtual machine access only from host PC. So this way we need to have what's called network address translation. This way we get a local IP address from the host PC. So we'll have router connect to host PC, and in here we'll have not just one network, we'll have two networks. For example, we will have this one and we'll have this one, where our virtual machine will have another IP address, so 2.2. So host PC will have two interfaces. First one is actual physical one connected to the router, and the second one will be virtual. And virtual machine will be using also virtual address. In this case, host PC can communicate to virtual machine, and virtual machine can connect to outside of the network. But from outside, it will not be possible to connect to this machine. This is the way we're going to. Okay, so let's go back to our virtual machine. And here, as we can see, everything was installed successfully. The process is really simple. It just downloads the packages and installs them. Okay, so now we want to have user John be able to access and to create VMs. For that, we will need to add him to a specific group called libvirt. For that, we just copy this command and add user John to libvirt. Okay, so once again it's done. Another thing we need is an ISO, an image of the installer to download so we can install the operating system for us. For that, we'll be going to the following website. You can just Google it. So, for example, Ubuntu download. And we will be using server version. So, let's go here and search for server. It's here. Then we just download it. You can use the latest version of 20.0.4. Okay, it's starting to download. It's downloading here. So let's wait for a few moments. The thing is, it's downloading it to our PC. So to download it to our server, we would need to upload it from our PC to the server itself, or we can just download it directly. For that, we just copy the link, right click, copy link, and use wget. Wget is a tool that will allow you to download an application or something from the internet. So we just insert the URL with quotes, as it has some special characters and we don't want to have issues with the download itself. And we press enter. And here we see the downloading process. So the speed is quite good and we will need to wait 25 seconds for that. While we're at it, we can start and create another session. So in here I pressed right click, duplicate session, and created another SSH session to the host. I will be logging in with John account. And now we can use Virt-Manager. So now that we have our Ubuntu saved, let's rename it to the actual name, so it will be much easier for us to find, and let's change the permission for it, for anyone can write to it or read it. Okay, so next we're gonna do is to use Virt-Manager itself. We just write Virt-Manager and press enter. Now let's wait for a few seconds for the interface to be drawn. Our xming is currently accepting some information from the internet. Okay, so as you can see, our interface is ready for us to create a virtual machine. Let's start. To create a virtual machine, we can press this button or go through File, New Virtual Machine. As you may see, it's not that fast as if you were using your actual physical device to work with this. So keep calm. Okay, so first thing that it's asking us if it's the type of the device from where we're installing the operating system. There are different ways. We can use network boot, we can use network install, or import something that already exists. But in this case, we want to use an ISO image. That thing, let me just show you, this one that we just downloaded from Canonical. So we choose local install media, ISO image. If it would be also a specific hardware, a specific computer, you could also use CD-ROM, but well, it's 2020 now, so not that many people use CD-ROMs. Okay, let's forward. Now we need to choose where the ISO image is located. For that, we use Browse option. Here we need to add a location where our ISOs will be. So we press Browse and we press the plus sign. In here we can specify the name you would like to give this. Well, actually I'd like to use home folder. So I just write home correctly and press forward. In this I choose directory. There are different options here, but we will just need the directory itself. So I press forward. Here I need to change the path of where I'd like to have this folder located. And here I'd like to have this at home John. So this will be located at this folder. Then I press finish, and now it's creating everything that's required, and we will see here that it appears. And here, when we press it, we will see all the files that exist in this current location, so in home John. And we want to install Ubuntu, so we choose this option and left click on choose volume. As when it's selected, it normally, depending on what operating system we're running, on what the ISO, it will detect the operating system. In this case, it doesn't, but that's not a problem for us. Then we press forward. In here, we can specify how much RAM we would like for our guest machine to have. In this case, our host machine has 32 gigabytes of memory available. So we can go for example, for 4,096 megabytes of RAM. And I would also like to have more than one CPU. So let's put it at 2. Then I press forward, and another window pops up. In here, I need to decide how much space will I be using with my operating system. Considering it's Ubuntu and server version, it doesn't need to be much. But let's just be safe and allow it to 60 gigabytes of space to be allowed. So it will not normally create the space itself, it will not occupy the space itself, it will be growing as this operating system is growing. So let's press forward. Name, it's defined by the detector of the operating system, but we know that it's not generic, but we'll be using Ubuntu 20 server. Okay. And here we can also define what network we would like to have. As I was saying before, NAT is the option for us. It doesn't require any different setup, and it will allow you for a machine to access the internet. So it's the easiest option here. We can also press customize configuration before install to check the other options. As you can see, there is an error here. The error appears because we have a space, actually 2 of them, in the name. Because having the storage location with the spaces would not be a really good idea. That's why we put this thing in here. Once again, we press finish. Okay. In here, we can see other options that we have. So we have an overview with the name of the machine, unique identifier of the machine, the CPUs, the memory, the boot options, and everything else. So for this one, we will be leaving this at default, and we'll be pressing begin installation. It's taking some time, and it's starting the VM. As you can see, another window opened up, and in here we can control the actual virtual machine as it was a physical one. Now let's wait for a few moments and let it boot. Okay, so we have the interface presented with us. As there are some issues with the actual screen size, we would like to maximize it. One thing is important here, that if we maximize it, then it will take a bit more time to render this on our device. But that's not a problem with us, because we have a good internet connection, and a stable one. Okay, so we have the space for everything, and now we can start. To get into the machine, we need to press in here So it actually is running. Oh. And now we can choose the options. So using our keyboard keys, up and down. We would like to have our language in English, so the installation will be easy for us. So for that we press enter. In here it says there is another newer version of the installer available, but we don't need to upgrade it, so there is no need for that. So we just continue without upgrading. Okay, in here we have the layout and the variant. So different keyboards have different layouts. In this part we have English one. Currently I'm living in Portugal, so I'll be choosing the Portuguese one. So for that I press enter here and go down to Portuguese. Okay, perfect. There is an option to identify the keyboard, but we don't need that because we know specifically what keyboard we have. Then we go back to here and press done. Now it's trying to identify the network connections. So this time, as I was saying, we have a NAT, and with NAT everything is working without any issues. So we press enter and it already has the IP. So we press done. And here we can have an option to define a proxy IP address if we are in corporate network that requires us to use username and password to get to the network itself. We don't have anything like that here, so we just press enter and skip this part. Here we're choosing what the mirror will be using to download and install the operating system. In this case, we'll be using a German mirror, because the server is located in Germany. Once again, if you would like to change this, you can, but we will be pressing done. Okay, one thing important here, and this is the biggest problem with all the installations of Ubuntu. This will allow you to use a specific way of partitioning of your disk. If you will be installing it on an actual physical device, you could have a different layout, different space, you could set LVM group and more like passwords and everything like that. But in this case, we just want to use the entire disk for our operating system and the files of the users. So we'll not be changing the layout itself. That's why we're going down and pressing done. Okay, that's perfect. Now we're having the option to see how it will actually look like. So we press done now. And once again, it will show us that there is an option to delete all the files from the hard drive. It means it will be deleting everything you have on your virtual machine hard drive. And if you want to proceed, you can choose the option to continue and press enter. Okay, my name here that I'd like to have is John. The server name is server. I also like to have John as the username. And the password, let's make something simple for us to remember. One thing is important. If you expose this machine to the internet, then people might be able to access it. And that's something that we are trying to avoid by using NAT. So even if it's something located inside the network, please choose a good password. Then we go to done and press enter. Here we can choose an option to install OpenSSH server, and we will tick it. By ticking it, we press space. Because we want to access the SSH server after the installation is done. So we allow this option to be chosen, and then we go to done. Here we can install different applications and different things on this network, on this machine, but there is nothing that currently we require, so we'll just skip this. If you want something specific, we can install it after this apt-get. Okay, and what we're looking at is the installation process. We just need to wait a bit for it to finish. Okay, as it's not installing a lot of application, the process is really fast. So let's look into it and see how it goes. So another thing it's doing is installing updates. Updates are really important in Linux operating system. There are different services that can be exposed on your machine, and if they are not kept updated, there might be issues with it, security-wise and actually application-wise. So some features might not work, and it might be insecure for you to run that application specifically. So apply updates, and that's really important to do. We can also choose view full log to see it, how the process is being done. So as you can see, the interface is somewhat similar that we've seen when we installed the application. And that's correct, because it's once again using apt-get to install the applications. As you can see, all upgrades are installed. So let's see the process. Okay, now we have two options. We can view the full log and we can reboot. Our option is to reboot, because we need to have the operating system ready for us. It's already installed, everything is ready for us to work, so we just press reboot. Here a few errors might appear, that it can't unmount CD-ROM, but that's not an issue for us. Okay, let's change a few options here. So, as it doesn't want to run itself and reboot itself, we just confirm that it's not working. We can shut down the machine. One thing is important, that because it failed to unmount the CD-ROM, it doesn't want to reboot. So that's why we can just shut down the machine. And here we press this pointy thingy and we choose an option to shut down. If this doesn't work, that it's this case, we can just force off. It can be, and we have the confirmation that we want to shut down the machine. Sometimes this problem might happen. So for example, if something is not well installed or has some errors with it, we can just shut down the machine or reboot it. Now we need to change the CD-ROM. So as it was using a CD-ROM in there and it trying to use the ISO image, it had to have it mounted. So let's look here and choose it has nothing defined. So it's perfect. So what we did here, it's the Virt-Manager is already removed the ISO image from the machine, in the sense of it removed it from the virtual machine. So when we boot the virtual machine, everything should be working correctly. Let's look. Pressing the green button to start the machine. We can look at the Virt-Manager itself and see the CPU usage here. Okay, so it's booting up. We see some debug information. As you can see, there is some lags with the rendering, but that's not an issue for us. Okay, our server is ready. Let's log in and check. Perfect. So in Ubuntu, to root access, we use command sudo. So let's do that and go to su access. It will now ask us for the password. As you can see, some things were not prepared when the installation was done. For example, generating SSH keys. And this is important to do because we would like to access the machine as soon as it's online. So once again, to get more information about it, we do sudo su, we introduce our password, and we check the IP address. In this case, our IP address is 192.168.122.225. Now, to get to the machine itself using SSH, we just can do the following. First thing we need to do is to close this. And we are going to open a new SSH window here. So 192.168 and something. Let's look back at this. Oh, sorry, 122.225. The thing is, this address is only accessible from the host machine. So this SSH client is host machine, and we want to access the guest machine. To do that, we do SSH this, and we are presented with information that we would like, if we would like to confirm and accept the SSH information about this machine. We write yes, and we have the password request. And here we can see that we are already on the server. So if I created a file here, for example 123, I can see that it's being created on this machine. So in the guest machine. To exit the terminal, I just write exit 2 times. So I exit from root, and then I exit from my user account. Okay, so the server is running. We can close this window once again. And now we can use this by using SSH directly. As you can see, everything is working fine. I hope you learned many things, and I hope you will use this in the future. And one thing I'm sure about, that this knowledge will help you out there. There are many companies that require you to know what is KVM, how it works, how to install it, how to run virtual machines. Obviously, there are different solutions like Hyper-V from Microsoft, like VirtualBox and others, but KVM is the most used one currently in Linux. There is another option that's also Docker, and that gives you more information and more process control about how to install a system. But in here, you can have everything you want as your physical machine, but in virtual. I hope you had fun. Have a great day.